Welcome to the Master Your Millions podcast, the show all about your financial potential and leaving a legacy for future generations. Here are your hosts, Jason and Scott Henderson.
Yes, I'm excited to introduce our guest today. She is an award-winning coach, speaker, and CEO of Dynamic Women Global Club. And her name is Diane Rolston. She specializes in coaching business leaders to have more confidence and success while living a balanced life. Her proven systems and processes help you have clarity on what to focus on, the confidence to go for it, and action plan with tangible steps. She loves sharing her proven strategies and interviewing guests on the Dynamic Women podcast. Her newest program, VA Made Easy, and that's virtual assistant for those that don't know, is designed to move you from task overwhelm to business ease by passing off your work to your very own virtual assistant she hires for you. Thank you, Diane, so much for being on the podcast today.
Yeah, I'm excited to be here.
So tell us a little bit about Diane Rolston. You live, actually, you're our first national foreigner. I don't know what to say there. You live in Canada, right? You're Canadian.
Yeah.
And you live where exactly?
Specifically North Vancouver, BC. And I'm from the other side of the country, or almost the other side, Ontario, from a little town called Brantford. The only thing you might know from Brantford would be home of Wayne Gretzky. And the telephone was invented by Alexander Graham Bell there.
Wow. Those two pretty good claims to fame there.
Yeah.
So how did you get from there to where you are now? I mean, one of the things that we know you the most about is your virtual assistant program and what it can really do for people, particularly young entrepreneurs that are attempting to expand and grow. How did you, like you said, get from where you were, where you grew up, to where you are now?
Yeah. Well, the easy answer for how did I move, it was love. I met a guy at the rugby club, and I met him there because I'm a rugby player, now retired because I tore my ACL. But he is from originally New Zealand, and he said, "I'm sick of Flat-Terrio. Can we please move to BC?" And so that's the movement story. But I'm really excited. I was really excited about that because the possibilities of a new town, bigger town, or a bigger city was really amazing. And the entrepreneurial market here is really great. But how did I get from a place of being younger and working to a place of having a virtual assistant or a virtual assistant business? Well, when I was younger, I was always the kid that the teacher sat beside, the bullied kid, the new kid, the ESL kid, the struggling kid. And my job was not to, which I realized over time, my job was not just to help them with their schoolwork, but to also have them kind of get involved with the class and be part of the community. So a lot of my work as I was getting older, I was realizing, wow, leadership, coaching, these are spaces where I can get in and kind of help people right beside them, like I did when I was in school, and also lead them and empower them. Because a lot of times it's a confidence issue. So in moving to BC, I started my coaching practice after doing some other work. And that was about 12, 13 years ago. And in doing that, everyone, I often had people come to me and say, "Oh, how did you do that? And how did you do this?" Just like when I was in school, the kids were asking me how to do certain things. And I have a way of coming at it from a different angle. And if they don't understand the first way, and explaining it in a way that really has these simple steps, these ABC 1, 2, 3 sort of formulas that they can just easily put into place. And so that happened with funnel building, selling from stage when I speak, creating courses, doing the podcast, having books, running events, like all the things I was doing in that side of the business. And then I had people starting to ask me, "Hey, Diane, how did you do that piece?" And I said, "Well, I had my assistant do it." And they'd say, "Well, I wish I had a virtual assistant. How do I get one?" Or I'd be in a coaching session and someone would say, okay, I need that built out. That's in my CRM, built out that email sequence. So that a bunch of emails that get kind of triggered to go off. And I said, well, why don't I just get my VA to do that for you and let's coach on some other stuff. And they'd be like, oh, that's amazing. So I'd turn to the VA and say, hey, can you do this for my client? Sure, no problem. And they do it and my client would pay me and all would be good. But then I realized that they needed more, right? They needed more than that. And so a lot of entrepreneurs like to be solopreneurs, literally like a silo, the lone wolf trying to do it all, but it burns us out. And so I had been so blessed to have Canadian assistants and then 2 Filipino assistants. And so with that kind of piece of people saying, oh my gosh, like I want my own VA or I want to use your VAs more. I said, great, here's like 10 hours with my VA, go for it. But it always fell flat. And because I have a background in curriculum development and training, and I kind of stepped back and I said, what's going on? How come I've been able to use them and they haven't? And it's a combination of lack of knowledge of strategy and lack of knowledge of like the tech and how to do things, and also a lack of knowledge of how to train. And so that's kind of how VA Made Easy was born, because I really wanted the clients to feel how amazing it is to have someone as part of their team, someone they can just pass off stuff to. And then on the other side, I care about my VAs and I want them to have stable, consistent work and have a really good relationship with their client. So that's kind of the super short, concise story of how everything happened. I still do professional speaking or fee-paid speaking. I still have my women's community. I do books. I have the podcast. I coach. I have high-end yearly programs with my clients. And then on the flip side, I've got 17 VAs, 30 plus. I don't even know. We keep growing so quickly. 30 plus clients that are consistently having a virtual assistant.
Thank you. And I didn't realize that you were a rugby player. Now I know why I've been scared of you for so long. You're that imposing, confidence in your eyes that you always do things.
Well, yeah.
It's really cool that you've been able to recognize a superpower, if you will, that you gained basically in elementary school or primary school that the teachers saw in you already.
Yes.
And simply started doing that. Was there an aha moment somewhere that made you realize this is what I should be doing? Or is it simply you one step to the next? Is there kind of a pivot point or something that you could talk about?
Yeah, first I'll just kind of say that when I was in school, I actually found this very frustrating.
It bugged you. The teachers were always asking you to do this.
It did, because I was torn. I wanted to hang out with my friends. I wanted to be in groups with my friends. I wanted to move at a faster pace. And I was like, why always me? This isn't fair. Fairness is a huge value of mine. But then when I was in it, that experience with them of helping them move forward and then bringing them into the fold of the class, my classes always seemed to get along. And it was because the outsiders I always was able to bring in. And I kind of, in reflection now that I'm older, I was also able to see that that was such a blessing for my teachers. The same thing happened in sports. I was always the captain, always the leader in clubs. I can't hide my leadership ability. And I think part of it is that service leadership where I am like really in it with people. And I would rather walk beside them than be the leader that's ahead of them going like, hey, I'm all the way over here. Come meet me. I'm like, hey, I'm right beside you. There's where I went. This is the steps you can take. Do you want me beside you, in front of you, behind you? What do you want me to do? And so I didn't realize that, because it's where I think the school system's really lacking. It was all traditional jobs. And so I'd be good at, as a doctor, as a nurse, as a teacher. My options were so limited and so black and white that it wasn't until I went into teaching and I was like, this isn't right. And I thought, okay, broadcasting, because I love to speak. And then I job shadowed someone for a day and I went, oh my gosh, this is not for me. You have to write everything yourself and it's all about news. And oh no, like I want to be more like Marilyn Dennis, who is a TV show host here, more of a lifestyle, social. I want to do that. And it wasn't until I was in a job ideal job on paper, making a lot of money. Every 3 months, I had 8 paid days off, benefits. I ran my own time, and I still was unhappy. And I'd come home at night and I'd like eat chips and drink wine and be like, what's going on? Why am I so tired? Is this just what happens when you like hit 30 or something? And at work one day, I just said, like, screw it. I went on Craigslist, because at the time, Craigslist was the main platform where you'd find things. And I typed in free life coach, because at the same time, I was saving for a wedding, saving for a house. And I thought, I just can't pay for one. And wouldn't you know it, 1 hour before I searched, someone posted offering 4 months of free coaching. And so I just poured my heart into this email to her. And she said, okay, I pick you. And so I did 4 months coaching with her pro bono. Then I paid her for 4 months because I felt that would be fair, right? And at one point I said, I feel weird telling you this, but I think I want to be a coach. And she said, oh, finally. And I was like, what do you mean? I said, have you known all along? And she goes, yeah, but coaches aren't supposed to tell you what to do. So I had to wait for you to figure it out yourself. And so coaching actually has the piece from teaching of like empowering and sharing, but it's also not force feeding curriculum. And then it has the speaking part of it, because I can go and do workshops and talks and programs. So it has all these pieces that I always like wanted to do, but I didn't even know was possible. So I knew what I wanted to be when I grew up at like 29, or 30, around there, which is really
Like
kind of
ago.
later in life, but yeah, it was good.
Well, last week I was in an event, and one of the gentlemen that was there leading some of the discussions said that there's a difference between a mentor and a coach. Talk to me a little bit what your feelings are, the difference between the two. For me, they're really, really similar. And so I need some coaching, if you will, or some explanation, what you feel like is the difference between the two.
Well, as we're sitting here, I can see the beautiful painting behind you. And it's a lion, and it's so many colors. And if I said, hey, that's blue, you wouldn't know if I was talking about navy blue, the aqua blue, the baby blue, what blue it was. And it's the same, I think, with the definition of what mentorship is. The true form, I say, of mentorship is someone who's freely volunteering their time to mentor someone who is younger or less experienced than them in whatever industry or knowledge they have. And it's set up as a way of kind of a sounding board, but it's not someone who's going to be in the trenches with you and doing full-on accountability with you. So in coaching, every session, I take the client through whatever process they need to tackle whatever problem they have. When I've worked with a mentor, I came with an agenda, because my feeling is if I am the mentee, I need to be prepared. So I have an agenda, I send it to them in advance, and I go through my different pieces that I want them to support me with. But that's when the time ends, right? It's not like they're going to follow up, hey, did you do this or that? I think it's the time that you're together is the time that they're giving. And it's not for them to make the decisions for you. It's for them to help you to make the decisions. So I actually now have a business advisor, not now, for many years I have, but that I feel like is in this mentor position, but I pay her. And so I come with my agenda. And like today, I'm going to go and talk to her about a couple of opportunities I have and how I will package my products for these opportunities, my services. And so with the coach, though, you pay them. So I've had some people come to me and say, can you just mentor me? And if they're in the early stages of their business and they want to bring me an agenda, once a quarter or whatever, I'm good with that. And there's a lot of programs. So for people out there in Canada that are listening to you, and the women, there are different, I think it's called The Forum. It used to be FWE. They offer a mentor-mentee kind of system. And this is amazing, especially for women in corporate, because this higher up woman in leadership can actually advise this more entry-level woman how to ask for the promotion, how to go for the interviews that will be to the next level, how to deal with certain situations that you only know from being in business for many years. It's the same thing I'm sure you've done, Jason, with Scott, in just, you're a few years ahead of Scott in his work. So you can mentor.
Few. He's like double my age. Actually, he is double my age. That's not a few.
Well, I'm not going to say the exact age. I don't know.
I do have the ability to kick you off this podcast.
That's true. That's fine.
I'm teasing. So you also, Diane, you've mentioned multiple times, and in the introduction, we talked about your role in this women's community.
Yeah.
Why is it that you felt, I don't know whether compelled's the right word, motivated to start a women's only? Is that something that you felt like you needed, or do you feel like that there was a need in the market? Where did that come from?
Yeah. So about a year after I had my daughter, which was also, I'll just let you know, I was working full time, taking my coaching certification, and pregnant all in the same time. So I basically got certified as a coach. And then 3 weeks later, I had my daughter. So I jumped into full-time business as also a full-time mom. After about a year, I was like, okay, time to go networking again, because I didn't need to have my baby right with me because she could take a bottle, right? So I'm going to these networking events, and this was not because of men. This is just what I was encountering with everyone there was a lot of that, like, here's my business card. I do this, buy from me. I was like, do you even see me here? And then the next week I'd come back and it would be like, hi, I do this. Here's my business card. Buy from me. And I'm like, we met last week. Like, don't you remember? And I messaged you for us to have a coffee chat. And if they found out I was a coach and wasn't their ideal market, there was no desire for a further conversation. I was like, this is BS. Like, these surface level networking events are messing with me. I don't like it. So I was laying in bed at night, and this is what, like, all of your listeners need to be thinking about. Where are the moments that you get extremely pissed off or extremely excited? Because this means that you've either something around your values has been dishonored or something around your values has been honored. And so now that as soon as I got into coaching, I realized about values and how the more you're in alignment with it, the more energy you have. So I was finding this dissonance, and I was getting so annoyed. And so I'm laying in bed at night going, oh man, like, I can either be mad about this or I can do something about it. So I did something about it. I created my own community. Now, why just women? Well, because I was a new mom of 1 year, and I kind of selfishly wanted some other like mom friends or some older women who could kind of mentor me a little bit. And I just knew the power of coaching my women clients, my female clients, that having a space for women to come together and be super vulnerable and real. I should say real first, because vulnerability scares the crap out of people. But to be really real and maybe, pull together all the people that felt like they were the ones that were kind of on the outside. And so my networking events, actually, there's no selling allowed. At the beginning, we all say what we do. And then as we dive into the events or like the activities, I lead them through questions where they're in pairs and triads and small groups, and they're actually discussing real things like, how do we bring in more leads, or how do we have more confidence in our work, or how do we speak better to prospects? How do we balance our lives? So it's actually a workshop, but in interacting with someone, you guys know when you're at events and you have these little side conversations about, your dogs, excuse me, or hiking or the latest movie, you start to pass good energy between each other. And then you're like, you know what? You're a cool person. I don't need your service, but I want to promote you to other people. Or I love what you're doing and I want to purchase it. And that comes later. Or it's like, hey, I really like you. What do you even do? Because you forget, right? And so people would be leaving my events hugging and then going, oh my gosh, we need to exchange phone numbers, rather than, here's my business card. This is what I do, buy from me. And so all I wanted to do was do one event, one location. And what I realized very quickly was the wait list would be formed within 12 hours of me posting the event. And so people would say, can you run an event in my city? And I have a location for you in my city. Can you run one there? So I eventually was running 8 different locations every single month with 30 plus women. The need was there. So it's not that I'm against men. I love men. I'm married to a man, but I have clients now that are men. It's just that I saw first a personal need and a desire, and then I wanted it for others. And the thing is, it was not a business decision. I made it $10 for the year to join. And you know how freaked out I was in the first 48 hours when no one was signing up on Meetup? I was like, maybe I should have made it $5. Oh my gosh, why did I do this? And then I learned later that Meetup doesn't send out the promo for it until 48 hours later.
Oh,
So, but that's to show, right? When you step into something new, even if it's up leveling your success, there's still that chance that your confidence is going to get rocked. And so ever since I've started, I keep putting myself in really scary situations, and with support around me and some little strategies I do for myself, plus having coaches in those moments of like, I don't know if I can do this. And oh my gosh, like this is really scary. And are people going to hate me? Are people going to buy it? I don't know. In those moments, every time I level up in my success, it's like new level, new devil. The confidence gets rocked again, and you gotta bump it up again.
I love that comment about leveling up in your business. At this event I was last week, there was a gentleman there that talked about that Tiger Woods had, I don't remember whether it was 4 or 5 evolutions of his swing throughout his career, how he had leveled up, and that was the change in his swing that got him to better, and better, right? And the analogy was that to be a 100,000-aire, for example, there's a certain mindset, and you got to level up to become a millionaire and the multimillionaire and up to a billionaire, et cetera, and be a business owner of that. One of the things you've said is that these solopreneurs, and we have talked to a lot on this podcast, and the listeners that are listening now, there's many of you out there that think that you are required to do everything, and that's simply not the case. So I want to go into a little bit with you, Diane, a little bit more intimately with your virtual assistant thing. And some of it's a plug. I'll be honest with the listeners that both Scott and I have a virtual assistant using Diane's services, and a link to her will be in the show notes. We recommend her, and not that any other reason, that we've had a good experience with it, right? And tell us, Diane, what are some signs that someone, or questions that people could be asking themselves that, hey, I'm ready for a VA. Maybe I should be considering this. They all think, I thought that's too expensive. I won't be able to train him. I won't be able to do anything with it. And I'm still not using them probably as good as I should. So coach us a little bit, tell people so they will know. It's like, yeah, you know what? I'm right in that situation. In order for me to expand my business, or me to be able to do more, whatever, I need to hire out my weaknesses.
Yeah. Well, the first thing that the listeners you can do is actually track what you're doing. So there's a really great app called Toggl, Toggl. It's actually on your computer. And you can go on there and you can start to put in like, what am I working on right now? Responding to emails. Okay. And then work on it. And I suggest you Google Diane Rolston and Pomodoro technique, so that you can hear my 3-step process to be able to focus and get more done. And that'll explain a little bit more about how to use Toggl with it, with the Pomodoro technique. But when you start to write down what you're working on, and it was the day that I looked and I went, it took me 5 hours from start until promoting for a blog. What? This is ridiculous. And I hated doing every part of it, except maybe creating some graphics. And so when you start to see the things that are taking your time, and and this is what I kept finding in clients, I'm not making enough money. I want to make more money. And I'm like, are you doing your cash flow activities? Are you following up? Do you have an email sequence going out? Are you nurturing your leads and your clients? Are you attending events and actually connecting with people? Are you putting out that new offer? And the answer usually is, I just don't have time. So what? You have time to make a social media graphic? You have time to edit your own videos? You have time to put out a blog? These are not making you money right away. These are long game activities. You need to do more short game activities. Put yourself out there so you can make more money and bring in more clients. And so if you're at a point where you're overwhelmed with like, oh, there's just so much to do, or you're stuck because the technology is holding you back, or you know there are so many other things you want to offer and you just don't have the time. And definitely if you are not making the cash that you want to make, it's because you just don't have enough time and energy, and you're doing a lot of activities that are not in your, if you want to call it core competency, your zone of genius, or what, frankly, you're just being paid more for. So when I know that I can offload these things, it'll cost me a couple $100 to get a whole bunch of stuff done, and I can make a couple $100 in an hour. It's the right payoff. It's the same reason why I have a house cleaner, why I was having my kids in daycare when I was working. It makes more sense for me to focus on the things that can bring in more money. And I'm not saying that money is the be all and end all, but if your goal is to scale your business to the point where you can sell it and exit, then you also need a VA to help you put in systems and processes and document everything so that you have SOPs, because someone's going to buy it and go, well, what am I getting? I'm getting a list. I'm getting some services some products you have, but I don't know how to run everything. Well, wouldn't it be amazing if you could give them, well, this is my full blueprint and my full manual of how I do everything in my business? So there's a whole bunch of reasons there, but I'll let you take it from there.
No, that's great. And there's many people, like I said, that we've already interviewed and will interview in the future that seem to be stuck in that realm. I mean, I remember in one particular, maybe Scott, you can remember a name. He had a corporate job. He had the corporate jet available to him, and he could go here and go there, and making good money. And then he decided, no, I'm missing too much of my kids' lives.
Yeah.
And he quit that, and then he was going in and he was I believe he was flipping houses. He had all these different projects going on, and it seemed like to me that type of individual would be able to say, okay, I need a virtual assistant that's tracking the work or doing stuff, and that can simply come back with some key indicators to him, so he can boom, 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 see that everything's on track and go to the next one, right? Because his one of his great things was being able to go find a new deal versus being, which color a cabinet or that or this to be taken care of. I don't know. What do you think, Scott?
Well, past that, a lot of times what we see too is the first person that someone should hire should be an assistant of some kind. Someone to offload the $5 work or the $10 work. I mean, if you're making $100 or $200 an hour, you really should not be doing some of these easier tasks. You should be paying someone else. Go free up your time and put more of an emphasis on your time.
Very true. Very true. We should be, as business owners, we should be focusing on high impact, high income producing tasks, and then passing off the lower income producing tasks to our assistants or our team or whoever it is. Another question to ask you is, can you actually take time off? Or if you get sick or have some sort of tragedy in your life, will your business be able to take on, right? When I flew home to see my family in Ontario, and I land and I tell my mom, okay, we're here, we're safe, because she always freaks out. I said, how are things going? She says, not okay. And I said, why? And she said, Dad's in palliative care. To go home and find that out, right? And to know my business ticked on. My blog was done. My newsletter was done. My podcast went out. I have not missed a podcast in over 4 years, and I do it every single week. And because of that, the Dynamic Women podcast has won 5 awards, right? And that's how I produce all my content. But the fact is, that week, because he died 7 days later, that week, my business was taken care of. Now, the following weeks were also busy. My business was taken care of. Last year, September, October, I took 3 weeks vacation. Business was taken care of. Now, when I can plan it, I had time in advance, which was amazing to be like, okay, we're going to do all these things. But knowing that you can step away from your business and it's not going to collapse, because I've had clients who have, come to me and said, I've lost everything because I didn't keep it up. But if you can pass that off, if you don't have anyone to take care of your business, you're not automated enough, then you are in trouble.
Which is why they need to talk to you. One of the mantras of this podcast is that mastering your millions, and this is in the outro, and everybody that listens have heard it, that it's all starts in your mind and with your team. Make sure they're the best. And so I was interested that Scott said that the first person you should hire should be an assistant versus maybe an accountant or I don't know, whatever else, a sales guy or something. I don't know, but you're saying assistant, and that's pretty interesting that you'd make that comment.
Yeah.
So Diane, do you do much investing?
About 10 years ago, my husband and I were going to get into real estate investing. And then that's when the Vancouver market went crazy. And so we missed out on the timing. And with then at that point, having a child and then coming into having another child, we decided that investing in real estate would need to be out of province. Because just to give you an idea, I live in about a 40-something-year-old townhouse, and it's worth 1.35 million. A townhouse.
Oh.
So the ability to flip here, I'm sure there's people doing it, but their ability to pull in cash is much higher. And it's more of like, I'm going to buy out a block and put up a big apartment complex. So we're kind of priced out of doing that. And I actually wasn't excited in doing it. So there were opportunities in our hometown and other places, but that's not the route that we took. I'm more so into crypto now. And so what I really love about it, because we also, my husband's into stock trading, and I don't want to listen to stock podcasts and figure it out and read the news and watch for trends and then take a gamble on it like blackjack. So what I like is crypto. That is, I put the money in and I get like an 11% return, and it's all passive, and I didn't have to learn anything or make any smart decisions beyond. Actually, here we go. I have a mentor. I have a mentor who is my friend's husband, and he quit his high-level corporate job, and he's just doing this for fun. He loves it. He has a passion. So I guess that's where you can also look to people to bring on your team, or people to mentor you or coach you should be people who are passionate and who are in it, like you guys are, right? So you want those type of people. So he gets up early, 5 a.m. He's checking everything out. He's doing all this stuff. He tests things out for 6 months, and then he tells me, and then I jump in. And so this has been amazing to be able to pull out, a couple $100 every week, because it's just spitting out money. It almost makes me rethink some of the other stuff I'm doing, because it's easier in some regards, but it's not where I'm passionate.
That's
true. So it's nice.
That's cool. Thank you. We always like to get people's opinion on that and where they're going, and what would you say that would be the best time for someone to start investing?
As soon as you can. I really wish that, I grew up in a very conservative family financially, who said, save for a rainy day and only buy what you need. And these sort of there was always money, but it was because there was always a lot of thought put into where the money went. And so GICs in Canada were the way to go, and to get your 3% or something, and you lock it in. But I really wish that, I had traveled, and I made money in Japan for 3 years, and then I blew it all traveling again. I really wish that I had had someone at that age teach me to do something with it. Like if I bought my first property and then rented it, and then I could have lived off of that for a while, but I didn't know. And so we're trying now with our kids to teach them how to do investing, and to talk about things. And I really hope that some of your listeners who have the knowledge are passing it on to kids, or passing it on to family members who don't have the knowledge. So, if you can do it with your first job, be putting away money with the plan to invest, with a plan to get your first property, that would be ideal. But sadly, people don't think about it till later on.
So what age was that? You said you wished you would have known at that age, someone would have told you when this Japan.
Yeah, well, I was in Japan for 3 years right after university. Also university, I just blew money. I didn't have set goals financially for investing because no one taught me about that. I was like, oh yeah, I could put GICs in, whatever. So it was about 20, I'd say I finished in Japan, I was about 24. And then I traveled for a year and yeah, I blew it all. I've got really expensive photo albums and great memories. I just wonder if there could have been both at that time.
Interesting. So let's say you have the ability, and you do right now, to do two things. Yeah. One is to give us a little bit of advice, what you'd say to people that are starting out, just some advice that, your sagest advice you can. And then also put it out there. We invite all our guests to put it out there. What's your next mountain you're going to climb? And with that, invite you back onto the show when you got there, when you've obtained that. So go ahead.
That's exciting. Thank you. So what I would say to my younger self, I'd say get a financial mentor or a financial coach, because I had a sports coach, I had done personal development, but I didn't know about that area of life. And that I didn't have to rebel against save for a rainy day. Instead, it could be save for a better day. I would change that up. And I would put so much percentage of what I made away rather than just thinking everything I had was disposable income. Yeah. And then what do I have coming up? Well, we have the Virtual Assistant Made Easy program that we've been running successfully for just over a year. And so now we're actually bringing in your Content Made Easy, which is in-house social media content creation that we can make for you if people don't feel like they just want their social media taken care of and they don't want to manage someone. We can do that. But kind of the thing that got me excited about this question is that last year I took a stand-up comedy class. And I do have this humorous side to me. My parents are British. We watched a lot of British Why did you make a face?
Because I'm attempting to be funny. I know.
Okay.
This is not a side I've seen, but I'd love to see it. Keep going.
Well, and that's the thing. I can be very professional when I'm in the leadership role and when I'm like doing business stuff. But with my clients, with my friends, when I can let my guard down a little bit, I'm a little bit on the edge in my humor. I have to rein it in when they're professionals around, when my clients are around. But I have this quirky, funny side. I love banter. Used to banter with both my parents all the time, mainly my dad. And I did a stand-up comedy class and I loved it. While it also scared the crap out of me. I only had to do a 5-minute set and I was so nervous. I'm excited to put together a new keynote this next coming year, which has a very humorous side to it. It's not going to be like joke after joke, but it's going to be an empowerment, confidence kind of boosting keynote with humor in it. And, after I finished my course, I did 2 shows, one with my classmates, and then I flew to a different province into Calgary. And I did another show for the Canadian Association of Professional Speakers. So that was my first main stage talking to my peers. And I had to do a comedy piece and I roasted them a little bit too. And so I was scared and I loved it. And I don't know if am I allowed to swear on your podcast?
No.
Okay. I'll just say holy and then the S word is one of my values, which because I love challenge from the sports, right? I was a varsity rugby player. I played competitive rugby and soccer my whole life. I played basketball, volleyball, all these things at a high level. And so I love challenge. And that moment, like when the plane door opens and you're going to go skydiving and you go to the edge and you go, holy, like that kind of moment. I love those moments, and I have to create them for myself now that I'm only playing like rec soccer. So I have to create these moments for myself. And so getting on the stage was one of those moments, like, oh my gosh, I don't know if I can do this. This is so freaky. I could mess up and I could bomb. But it's also that thrill and that rush. And this is actually one of my values in life. So when I'm honoring this, you could probably tell my energy is picked up now. When I'm honoring this, that's when life is really exciting. And so that's why I'm really pumped to do this type of keynote, and probably mainly for women's conferences, women's events, women's associations. So that's where I'm going next.
Cool. Well, we'll stay in touch and find out how it's going for you. And
yeah,
we'll find out about how many standing ovations you have and everything. We appreciate that you, once again, Diane, being on the show. It's been awesome to have you. And there's been a lot of real good gems here and there throughout the show. And I hope it's been good for people to listen to. Scott, any parting words or things that you want to end with?
Nope. I think it was great. Thanks for coming.
All right. Thanks again, Diane.
Thank you.
Thanks for listening to Master Your Millions with Jason and Scott Henderson. Check the show notes for any links or contact information about today's guest. Make sure to follow the show so you don't miss any future episodes.